Welcome, everyone. Hi, guys. Did you get that, John?
The invite?
No, I was just making sure the co-host went through. You got it.
Yes, I did.
Okay, we're waiting for Mr. Mott. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Cal, how are you? I'll give you a mic.
I'm good. You?
You good, sweetheart? Yes.
I'm good.
Hi, Mr. Mott.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are.
Mott! We got you, Mott. You in there?
Yes, I am alive. Sound check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5, 4,
Loud
3,
and
2,
clear.
1.
Loud
Loud
and clear.
and clear.
Perfect.
Welcome, and thank you, Tisha, for hosting this space. I hope everything is okay with you. I know that you had a rough time with your sister, and that is not among us anymore, and I hope you are still standing on both of your feet.
Thank you. Yeah, she's still with us. She's holding on. she's still with us. She's in
Oh,
hospice.
still with us.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry for maybe not being.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's she's in hospice, but it's just suffering terribly. So we're just praying for peace.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
But thank you, Matt, so much.
Praying for peace. That is actually what we all are doing, in one way or the other. Sorry for me not being informed enough. I'm not in the back channels. I have so much other stuff to do in these days, so I'm not reading everything. I simply do not have the time. Thank you, John, for co-hosting as always and being the well of knowledge. And thank you to the secretary, let's call it the secretary of the Human Republic.
She's the best. We love her.
Yeah, she is truly so. Standing strong and tall always. Let's get this one rolling. Ever so slowly, we need to get some more people in. So please retweet this space because we're gonna have some really nice trains of thought to be delivered. It goes way deep back to Operation Falukorv in its beginnings, you could say. And we will move forward to today. We will probably end up in the apartment with nefarious actions from Hunter Biden in the House of Sweden, Washington, D.C., or wherever we end up. It is not really hard to just move a couple of 100 years forth and back, because things are pretty obvious if you as an individual, as a person, are willing to consider what really have happened, not what you've been told, not what have been displayed on the news or whatever. If you just look at the pure, let's call it the pure facts, as we were the Sherlock Holmes and took out our our pipe and our strange looking hat and our, well, I don't know what that's, magnifying glass and our fingerprint kit or whatever. And we will always, sorry for that, we will always find that it is the butler. And that the butler in this case is wearing, I can guarantee you, he's wearing his yellow boots and his blue jacket. And I think that Mr. Tolkien actually wrote a book about just him. Or actually several books. It's called The Lord of the Rings. If you have missed it, please read them. If you are a little bit lazy, please watch the movies, which will not contain all of it, but it will give you sort of a starting point to figure things out. And then you go look up Mr. J.R.R. Tolkien and what he have been doing his life. And I do not really base everything on Tolkien, not at all, actually. I base it on the history that is not provided to us by school, by libraries, or by the mainstream media, but by the historians, even by the gatekeepers. They still will provide bit by bit by bit by bit. They will never connect them, but they will actually write about them and so on. And if you can connect these bits and pieces, the puzzle is not it's not complicated, but you need to get some guidance into it. So therefore, I'm gonna shut that one down. Sorry for that. So believe it or not, just the other day, the Swedish PM, Prime Minister, that is actually hanging out with Biden and Stoltenberg. This Stoltenberg, the guy who talks really bad English and acts like he's the boss of NATO. He is not. And he has a very dark history that will be revealed. I will not push too far into that matter, but we will find out. And he's, of course, let's call it a puppet on a string for the most powerful family in the world, as I see it. And that is the family Wallenberg of Sweden. And they got the baton in the race from the oligarchy that was between them and Axel Oxenstierna. And getting back to the Swedish PM the other day, bluntly, straight out, in a recorded, very important message from the government to the people, he just bluntly stepped up and said, Axel Oxenstierna still rules.
Did he just say that, Matt? Recent?
Yeah, for no reason at all. He just, he got his manuscript and he just said it. So all the disbelievers, the OGs here, you, Tisha, and Jan, and everybody else that's been hanging around for quite a while, they know that I will return to Oxenstierna quite a few times, because that is the pivot point when the Viking 2.0 project takes over Europe. The sidekick, very careful now, the sidekick, the Viking crown, starts the East India Company and kicks off that. This is simultaneously, and this is also the start of the military-industrial complex. And now we have a PM that hangs out with Biden that says, Oxenstierna still rules. End of story. And of course, the Swedish people, they don't, mainly it's the gatekeepers and the ones that, the corrupted ones. They pretty much knows what he is saying, and they are not feeling too comfy about that. I'm pretty sure about that. So that is just confirmation. So we really don't know who is running this train right now. The train towards Republic in Sweden, I guess. So that's up on again. So I don't know how loud my voice is, but it is actually happening things with regards to that. And it comes, a month or so after we start pushing the narrative or pushing the truth. It's not the narrative, it's the truth. So it's, and this is really strange. This is like Biden, but he's clear in his mind, so he's not, but why is the Swedish PM saying Oxenstierna still rules, and then goes on to, let's support Ukraine, let's go to war with the Russians, and all of the usual bullshit that is play. So it is quite strange. And of course, the government that sits in Sweden right now, they went to Oxenstierna's castle and made a deal there, to get the government in place. Secret deals or whatever, official but secret. The media played it out on his castle, the Tidö castle. So. And that's a long time ago. This is a couple of years ago, because they are on the 2.5 year period out of 4 right now. So this is like strange, because they are sort of telling the public, okay, you should look up Tidö, you should look up, you should enlighten yourself. We are calling this, so we're calling the government that we have right now the Tidö government, the Tidö deal government. And of course, the Swedes are like, I will not quote, because it's quite insulting and so on. I will not quote Tucker Carlson, but if you look into the Tucker Carlson at Joe Rogan, he spits it out straight out. And he's, he is a powerful voice, and he's a descendant of Sweden. I don't think he speaks Swedish or whatever. He's all in heart American, and but he understands, I think, through his family that came to the US not so long ago, actually. So I think he understands, and he gets the point of it. So hey, John, sorry, hand, John, don't raise your hand, just speak.
No problem at all. Thank you for bringing up those points. It was a thought that popped into my head as you were speaking to the fact that on one hand there was something spoken, and then on the other hand it was almost, I'm painting a picture here, illusionary, as if they were telling the truth subconsciously. Because if you think of language, there's a rule, let's just say, that we learn in school here on the state side post 1871, and one of those rules is I before E except after C. And I say that this may help others see a little closer, see the fine line that's drawn, so to say, in the matter of the oligarchy and the corporate construct, which has such a stronghold on so many things, it seems. Because Ukraine, what is Ukraine? And if we look at the colors, the flags, like you had stated, blue and yellow, there's a color missing there. and that's red. And I bring up red because it is symbolic of the prior sacrifice that was made, not necessarily blood on hands, but blood that was shed in remembrance. So when you have I before E in grammar and spelling a word, it's an exception with the C as the letter C. So what's interesting is if you think of the word conceive versus deceive, or conceptualize, or anything, con job, right? Job, working, workman for the corporation. So what seemed to me, as you were saying, was the fact that it was 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Quite simply. I'm trying not to ramble and get too far in the weeds here, but I hope you hear what I'm saying.
I get your drift, and going back to Tucker Carlson, which sounds a little bit strange on that, is that Tucker had his interview with Putin, and Putin starts out with telling why it is blue and yellow. he spits it out straight off, and I think I don't think they have a close relation at all, not at all. So I think that Putin might have overestimated Tucker, that he knew his Swedish and so on, that he should know about Rurik and all of this. So I think he overestimated Tucker quite a bit. He wanted to have a probably a discussion about the root of the Russian empire as such. That is blue and yellow, but it divorced, from the blue and yellow in Ukraine. We still have, the regions where the main instigators of the Russian Revolution and so on, they have that's the Cherson region. They have the insignias of Sweden on the flag still today, and believe it or not, still today they have added some stuff for the SS divisions. They were Ukrainian SS divisions. They still celebrate those in those regions every year, and that is every year since the Second World War. They don't stop. They've been doing this all the time. They are not backing down. They have their way of doing things, and of course they have their handlers and so on. We have, if we turn to just after the 1991, the abolishment of the Soviet Union, which is not Russia. That is not really the same thing. When they abolished the Soviet Union, the Soviet Union, the movements there were, this is in 91, the movements in Ukraine were specific to George Soros and some other people, that stepped in, very quickly. And this Soros, he speaks openly about this. He's proud of it. And then people think that George Soros is the main guy. He's not. He's the bag man of the Wallenberg family. Full stop. And all these big American accounts, they will never never, I repeat, never, because they are cowards and so some nasty words, individuals that will not tell the story. They are just keeping part of the truth out and pointing towards the wrong enemy. Boom! I think John lost his mic there. Tish?
I got it.
Secretary.
I get it, John. Kelly has a question, Mr. Mott.
Oh, Kelly, hand. Yes, go ahead, Kelly.
Hi.
Yeah.
Well, I can't recall what was the name of Western Ukraine that was Allied and not that was Axis and not Allied forces.
Well, there were several regions, but the main region is Cherson. That is,
Okay.
they carry the Swedish weapons still, and that's where you had this, the banderas and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
and then
yeah.
I was trying to get it straight in my head because it's so crazy when somebody comes in and just does this sweeping move and goes, okay, this is now a country, even though y'all were enemies and you were on this side and y'all were on that side. Now you're just going to be one big happy family. That just can't possibly work,
No. I mean, that goes back. It goes back to the Viking Age. One of the last regions where the old Viking language, and this is no bullshit. You can look it up. One of the regions where the Viking language were sitting the last. That was actually not in the northern because the language changed quite quickly. It was on the Crimea, on the Crimean half island. It was sitting there for quite a while. And Ukraine is blue and yellow. They never
Right.
the Swedes have never let it go. Even when it was behind, the Soviet Union and Stalin and so on. And Stalin, he knew the Swedes very well.
So like what I learned, which is probably false because everything that's in a book anymore, it seems like is a just blatant lie. But originally the term was really the Cryanes, not Ukraine, but the Cryanes, and it meant outskirts. So it was like never really, was it ever really owned by Russia for real?
Yeah. The Russian Empire under the Tsars, they took quite a good grip
They
on it.
actually owned it,
Yeah.
but the line of the country wiggled a little bit depending on who was fighting who.
Yeah, but
Okay,
the thing is that as everybody knows, Russia is a very large territorial area.
Yeah.
It's like 13 time zones. So, but the origins of the Tsar families and so on, it will come from there because it was just not wasteland, but just big natural land of as vast
like
as
the borderland. So if you got attacked by somebody, that was the first place.
yeah. So sort of Kiev Reich or whatever we should call it that grew up from the Vikings, or that is the foundation of Russia. They just moved from there into Russia. That's about it.
From 908 with Rurik, and then it switched. They like shifted up to Moscovia and got Moscow.
Yeah. They sort of took things in their own hands. So the last queens or the last queen, kings, and so on. Well, the queen, but she inherited from a dead king, whatever. They were Norwegian Vikings. Or before it sort of switched over to the Tsars. So this is really crazy stuff, but you have to know it to understand a little bit about Ukraine, which many people don't want to understand at all. They are pretty hard people there. They are not soft people, but they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I'm pretty sure that I talked to some Ukrainians, and they are pretty aware of the situation and all of this. But of course, they have formed a nation after it actually was given sort of, and it's a split nation as well. Stalin just handed over, from one of his, I don't know what they really did. They just draw the map very roughly, they didn't think at all. And then you have a bit of Poland, you have a bit of Hungary, you have, it is a mess because you have all of these groups inside Ukraine. So the core Ukrainians, they still feel that, well, we are Ukrainians, and they are, no doubt about that. But the rest of the regions, they have lots of Polish influence, Hungarian influence, and from others. So it is a bit messy with the inside, but they have gotten along quite good. And these regions where we have that refused the coup d'etat 2014, nobody, not even the top brass, will say anything else that it was a coup d'etat. And this is the modus operandi. So there was a coup d'etat, and these regions, they were strong-headed because they learned something during the Second World War. And this is very important. These regions that were strong-headed and said, we do not accept the coup d'etat. We've been here before. We are the steel workers, the coal miners. We are the core of our own people, and we do not accept this. And if you look at the Ukrainian ordinary army, the regular army, not the Azov and this kind of bullshit that, pops up a little bit later on, not the Nazi part of which were not in the army. Those were just, a flag thing at that point in time, and with Kolomoisky and all of this. So the regular army went down there. They had, they had the Air Force did some bombings on the governmental buildings. People died and so on. Just in the in the following days of the coup d'etat. But these people down there in Donetsk and Lugansk, they are strong-headed as you would. I don't know what to compare with in the US or whatever, but probably yeah. So they stood their ground, and of course they got a little bit of help from the Russian friends and so on, but they didn't have any army, they didn't have any guns, they didn't have sort of anything. When the regular army was ordered to enter these regions, these people just stepped out and stood as on the what the TV blows up in the Tiananmen Square, these Chinese guys with the shopping bags standing in front of a tank. They really did it, and a whole lot of them, they went man out of house. And the regular army, with decent people, which Ukrainians are, with inside the regular army, they stopped. They put out, the bullets of the guns and all of this, and said, "Hey, we're not going to do this. We are not going to run over and shoot civilians and so on." There were some, but I would say minor incidents and so on, with them driving or, people get scared.
Skirmishes.
Skirmishes, but not in the large scale. So the large part of it, they stopped the tanks and the personal, the armored carriers and so on. They stopped them and they walked back. They just said, fuck it, we're not going to do this. We are regular army. We do not attack civilians.
And is that region is Ukrainian speaking or Russian speaking?
Both of it.
Both? Okay.
Yeah, but this is the Donetsk and Lugansk. And the history here is quite interesting. If we just dive back, we are not on Oxenstierna yet, but
I'm sorry, my bad.
it is okay. It is okay. So the history here is quite interesting because there are very few recordings of Adolf Hitler speaking outside the official. He didn't write this book by himself either. I'm quite convinced about that. So the Mein Kampf, which is it's very funny because the publisher of that book is the same as the publisher of 1984. I'm just saying, and those guys who publish it, they just happen to be very intimate friends with the Wallenbergs for some reason. I'm not going to say more than that. We had to make our own conclusions. So at this point in time, Hitler travels to see Mannheimer, the Finnish president. You know, Finland were first they were Nazis, and then they went to be against the Nazis for some reason. You know, they had a bad time. So first they attacked the Russians, and then they didn't, and then it was quite a mess. But he is traveling up to celebrate Mannheimer's birthday for some reason in the middle of the war. You know, there is big risk on going on a train and whatever. Still, Mannheimer Hitler is traveling on a train up to Finland, to Helsinki. There is a Finnish news reporter that actually drops a mic as a matter of fact, he drops a mic inside their wagon where they are, and there is a recording, and this is the official recording. You can find it at the the Finnish television YLE, their site as well. I have it, of course, where they talk about the T-34 tanks, which is it's unknown to them, you know, how many is coming, what gives the Red Army the edge that will push the Nazis back. And they are really confused about this, and they said, fuck, we're not going to win this. They have too many tanks. They don't know where they're coming from. And this is the people in Donetsk and Lugansk, because Stalin moved millions of people there to build and manufacture these tanks. And Stalin is very acquainted with the Swedes. He's very acquainted with Lenin as well, who have died many years before, but he is of Swedish heritage. And these guys, they are forced them back to Stockholm after the first failed attempt of Russian Revolution in 1905 with Trotsky. They are fought them back to Stockholm. Stalin, not so much. He didn't really like the Swedes because he was in many years before, in the 1890s, he was in Baku, you know, doing social democrat Bolsheviks stuff. Social democrat Bolsheviks. That's how we started. And they had a friendly ideological parts in Sweden. Nowhere else. That's the Swedish Social Democrats as they were back then. So Stalin was doing his kind of Bolshevik stuff in Baku, where you have the noble family. And the noble family is the dominant family of Russia at this time. They are the kings of the oil. They are, you know, and they have a long history. That's as the same as in the Nobel Prize. So they are hanging out in Baku. Probably they make some deals as well, because he sort of stopped production in Baku. He got all the workers to do, you know, their protest and everything, and it was quite a messy time. So he knew about these people. He knew about the Swedish oligarchs. He knew about the Nobel family, the Wallenberg family, and all of it. He knew it. So he was playing along, I guess, I assume, with all of the nefarious actions, stepping up to do the real Russian Revolution. But where it all ended up is that Stalin moved all of these people to the Donetsk and the Lugansk because that's where they have the iron ores, what's that called? The iron works to do the stuff that you need, the industrial base to manufacture these tanks, and they were pretty good, and they could do lots of them, and they worked, and that is the game changer for real in the Second World War. That's the armored tanks from these regions. So these people, they are the heritage, and that's not so long ago. So they were, hard, tough people that would not bend down to a coup d'etat. And that's where we are standing now. And many of them were Russian speaking, but they were also speaking Ukrainian because it's a sort of a mixed people down there. And I don't think that the Ukrainians, they don't hate the Russians because everybody is, they are cousins, they are married, they are forth and back. It's like having a civil war between choose any two states that is neighbors. It is a mess, but this is the.
Well, from a distance, it looked like the farther that you moved east, the more Russian-speaking people that you would find.
Yeah, of
it's just
course.
kind of like what it looked like from a bird's eye view.
Yeah, yeah. And if you move south, you will have Poland, and if you move not south, but if you move west, you will have
West
Polish speaking. If you move a little bit to the south, you will have the Hungarians and so on. This is why Orban is very engaged in this. He feels his responsibility because you have quite a large Hungarian speaking crowd, population of Ukraine as well. So the situation is complex, I would say. And the Polish, they if I know them right, and I spent time in Poland, I spent time in all of these regions. So, and the Estonians as well, So I have a pretty good idea about the, So the Polish, they are looking at Lviv or Lvov, as it could be called by different people. That is their region. They still, consider that to be Polish. They have not given it up, so to speak. So the situation with regards of people relations on the border thing of it's much more complex. It is not, Ukrainians gonna crush Russia thing. Ukrainians can never crush Russia. This is the nefarious oligarchs that have been using the Nazi movements to kick this war, and then of course the patriotism and so on with inside Ukraine is used. The posh people of Ukraine, oh fuck, I'm just saying this, the posh, the rich, the oligarch servants of Ukraine, you would not believe it if you really dig into it. This is just it's a tragedy. So many people lost on both sides, but mainly on the Ukrainian side. And the war is fought such a way that the civilian losses are the smallest ever possible. And this is according to the UN, not according to me. There are less civilian losses now when there are many, many soldiers dying every day than it was in 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18 when the nefarious Azovs and these guys were banging on to sort of, terrorizing these two regions. That is a matter. That is a fact, and it is quite strange that people are getting so blinded by the propaganda. But nevertheless,
when I studied, I found out about the Russian cauldron. In America, we do shock and awe. We go and just blow everything up. And I watched like the first weeks of it, the first couple months. It was a perfect Russian cauldron. It was so executed so beautifully. And then America stepped in and screwed it all up. You know what I'm saying? But it was like really interesting to see a whole totally different mindset to waging a war, to where you didn't want to hurt things.
Actually, the former Swedish PM, Carl Bildt, aka the Bloody Swede, as in Lundin Oil and all of these nefarious things, he was in 2016, I think it was, he was actually proposed to be the foreign minister or even the PM of Ukraine by the Ukrainians themselves. This is shit. You can't make it up. This is confirmed, so this is no bullshit. It is what it is. So, well, let's get back to Axel Oxenstierna. Kelly, you always get me running down the line here. John, please go ahead. I would take a breath.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's marvelous. Welcome, Rob, as well. Welcome, Kimberly. Welcome, everybody else. And please retweet this space. Lots of people needs to get some of this information, which I hopefully can present in an orderly fashion, or we can present in an orderly fashion. Please come up and grab a mic if you have any questions. We will continue on after John gets the mic here. We will continue on with Axel Oxenstierna and Peter Minuit, which is a quite interesting fellow as well.
So, Matt, what would you say would be the bridge between Ukraine specifically, modern times, Ukraine specifically, and Poland and Sweden? There's a trifecta there. That's kind of part one, and I'll give you 1A also. And how would the rose, if you're familiar with that, play into this as well?
The rose, I'm not totally familiar with what you are going after there, but Sweden have a large influence in Poland. There is a sort of a love-hate relationship between Sweden and Poland. Axel Oxenstierna did a job on them that is actually called the Swedish. I need to do a translation here. I need to do the Polish still says that. I'm just going to check. I don't know if Poland is a very religious country, Catholic. So I just need to. I can tell you a story while I'm trying to Google that word. I never used it. I'm not quite sure if that is the. Well, okay. I'm going to tell you a story. If you're on the borders, where you have Sweden, Russia, Poland, Estonia, and so on, the people there still in the 21st century, they scare their kids with this. If you are not nice, the Swedes will come and get you. And that is the heritage of Axel Oxenstierna. And of course, the Lion of the North, Gustav II, the warrior king. They still scare their kids with that for some reason. So what the Polish says about the Swedes is indirect translation. I'm not sure. They say, it is the fall of sins, the Swedish fall of sins, because the Swedes really did a number on Poland in the 30-year war, which is Oxenstierna's doing, to take over Europe and take control of the banking in Europe. That was the Peace Treaty of Westphalia, 1648, before they started to form the national state. Is that a good answer enough?
Absolutely. It was, the ignorance is staggering to me because of even 2 layers. It's astonishing to see, just in myself, how quickly I've forgotten certain things as well. And it's good for a refresher, but the extent that it was buried to, with some people, it was astonishing to me. Because, like I said, of those 2 layers, I mean, Ukraine itself is one thing today. But once again, through time, how much has that shifted over in a geographical sense as opposed to the topical map element, the corporate state, so to say. It's staggering to me. And why, I don't know. I see peace more looming on the horizon now than I think we have been in quite some time, but I just don't, I don't know why there is a blockade of sorts, if that makes sense. It just seems like something is amiss between, I don't know if it's Ukraine and Russia, or no, it wouldn't even be Ukraine and Russia.
No. Ukraine and Russia is, I mean, they have a long history. It goes forth and back, of course. But let's not forget that the foundation of Russia is coming from there. And the foundation of the Kiev is coming from the Vikings. That's how it goes. And that is what sits in people's mind that actually understand the heritage and so on. Which is, of course, not all of them, but, it's, all of these isms, the Nazis, the whatever is you want to show, that's from the oligarchy as per modus operandi. So looking at the real deal, it is quite different, actually.
If I could jump in, Mott, for a sec, if you look at a Christian nation, like it was, I guess Kiev is where the first church was built, and it was consecrated by a metropolitan or a priest, whatever, from Syria. And so there's that tight tie that Russia has to Syria based on a city in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the Holy Rus.
Yeah, and actually, right now, as we speak, the relations between and well, this is good as I see it. The relations between Erdogan, Turkey, and Syria were friendly at one time, and then they went to be not so friendly. That they slid over and got into a bad situation. But it seems like Erdogan, who is playing a major role here, Turkey entering the BRICS, and Turkey is, if you have missed it, I'm going to inform you, that is the strongest army / NATO entity in the European continent. There is no other nation, army, whatever, even if they get together, all of this. The Germans has been, put down a long time ago, and the other countries are not really that big, and they don't really have, and France is in a dissolvement picture right now. So everything is not looking so good for the oligarchs, if you want to put it that way. So Erdogan and Assad in Syria, they are, they're getting towards the good discussions, and the Russians are helping them out a little bit, and that will mean the end of the oligarchy / the US military in that region. I would suspect, and I would assume, just guessing in today's geopolitical situation, that Turkey openly announces that they will join the BRICS will also mean sort of the end of Turkey in NATO. And we see Trump on the other side. We can think what we want about him, but just that Turkey is stepping into the BRICS will mean sort of the end of NATO. And the NATO is created by the oligarchs, by the Wallenbergs, the Morgans, and these guys in their purpose, just to follow up the Bretton Woods, to have the white hand, the sledgehammer of the US. And that is a large part of what I call Operation Falukorv, which means that US and US lives have been sacrificed for the oligarchs in the army. Nothing bad, everybody that has served under the grade of colonel or whatever, because if you are above that grade, you will know about this, you will understand it, and I will put my reasoning there. So if you have like 2 or more stars on your shoulder, or even 1 star on your shoulder, you will be aware of who is running the shit show, and you are just caught in the system if you are blackmailed or if you are doing it willingly or whatever. But all privates, lieutenants, and whatever that have served, I will bring my knee down on the ground for any of these people, because they have been double tricked, double fooled and used, and many of them dead.
Yeah, but Matt, stand with us, right? That's key. It's pretty clear once most of us are at that point, and we just have to think of that, be mindful of that, right? Because if we're not standing arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder together right now, this is when, let's just say, the same mistakes will be made again.
Yeah. I mean, for the ones that have served, but doing it without knowing who they have served. That's my point of it. So and many of them have realized this, and that is why you have a terrible situation. We have it here as well, but a terrible, because we have our armed people being all over the place as well, being neutral and blah, which is pure bullshit from and this is a trauma for Sweden, because we've been in this the whole time. But the Swedish people have never been allowed to know it. They don't even know it today. More than the people that have been in the army and working with it. But they keep silent. And it's not as bad as in the US, where you have 22 to 44. The numbers, veterans taking their own lives every day, and it's so terrible. It hurts, really. It hurts me, because I have, with my background, it really hurts. It is, a totally from the oligarchs and these people, above in the command chain. It is a total disregard of human beings, and of course what the actions will do, and so it is terrible. where
It is.
this
It
is
is, Matt. And for anybody listening, I apologize for abruptly interrupting. But anybody listening, to put it just very plain and succinctly, the weaponization of the bloodshed is mainly what is the issue that we're looking at. A sacrifice of a time in life is one thing, because we do that to help. If we have the ability as men and women to help one another, that is a sacrifice. But a sacrifice does not mean that it ends in bloodshed. The end is not our bloodshed. The end is not our bloodshed. The end is the sacrifice, because we need to keep balance with ourselves too. And that balance, by just a simple putting it out there to the world, the universe, the earth, that, I apologize for anything I didn't do. I wasn't aware of that I did, that I don't know. Something as simple as that, in forgiving yourself is key, right? And I just wanted to say that because I feel that's a good seed to plant for anyone who may be going through something. I have not served in any capacity for what we would call the armed services, armed as in weaponry of the like something that could take a life sort of perspective. It's been a service on my end, which has been really interesting with my family lineage, military background of a lot of different things, but different ends of the spectrum as well, to have a very middle grounded perspective as well. And, that's my part to have the balance and try and just share that, right? Because so many people are on a teetering place right now, and it's not necessary, because it's a moment in time, and our sacrifice now is then self-inflicted. And this is why it's important to look inward, and forgive ourselves. Our hearts are hurting, and it's time for healing. Moving forward on.
totally. And to do that, we to grab a bit of American history, early American history, we have to look at the first state, and that is New Sweden, aka Delaware, and this will connect to these nefarious East India companies, or to these, the corporations which were formed in the early 1600s. And as you probably heard, and you are probably well aware of, somebody called Peter Minuit, he bought the Manhattan, just to make it, quite obvious. And that's just,
Can you repeat that, please?
Peter Minuit. I will put the article.
Is that French?
No, he's actually well, he's actually German, and he ends up in, well, after they had some, this is during the 30-year war, Oxenstierna war, the Swedes. He ends up in Holland, and then he is employed through some connections to the West India Company out of Holland, which is the same sort of the sister company of the East India Company, the nefarious one, and of course the Swedish one as well. So he's the guy that actually buys Manhattan from the natives. And he's the guy that is hired in, because he has the knowledge of the region and so on, by Axel Oxenstierna to create New Sweden, which is Delaware.
And Mott,
And
I don't know if you're aware, and anybody else who is not, the Industrial Revolution was actually started in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is a very important piece. Racine and Milwaukee, as well as Rothschilds, Wisconsin, have an important aspect to a lot of things as well.
yeah, of course, because they had the mining. The mines, the earth, take control of the natural resources. This is just, consequences of this. And of course, then you got to fake all of it by calling corporation or company policies law. And then you got to hijack the law. You got to hijack the courts. You got to hijack the constitution. And so was done a little bit later on down the line. So this is in the early. He buys Manhattan in 1626. And is hired in by, and this is he's doing under the, as of the company that he's representing. And in 1635, they come up together with some friends and discuss with Axel Oxenstierna in 1637. And in 1638, they form Fort Christina, which is today Wilmington. And from that on, we go. It's a go, sort of. So Delaware is sort of Delaware. And of course, Biden is from Delaware, blue and yellow, Fort Christina, Wilmington, and all of this. So, and that is also where you have the main corporations have their, their legal standings and for taxes and for other reasons. You have this strange Delawarean court, which is sort of a prolonged arm of the Wallenberg ruled and controlled ICC, which is the International Company Court. And of course, the Wallenbergs control that by, 100%. And the Wallenbergs is also shaping what we today think it's just been there forever, whatever. The other ICC, which is of course have the same short lettering, the International Crime Court in Hague. The International Company Court is actually, believe it or not, in Stockholm. Oh, what a coincidence. And that's where you settle, if you have with patents or whatever, we have a very strange, it is just fucked up. It is the center of the corporation's legal system, since it derives from the maritime law of the Vikings going through the Hansa and implemented, then again reshaped a little bit by the East India Company through, believe it or not, the French courts that wrote the maritime law that we are still under. And as of 1947, when Sweden were first out with giving us numbering us, then we were really lost at sea under the Admiralty law. Or the maritime law, it has different names. Actually, the maritime law is a sub thing to the Admiralty law, but it doesn't really matter. It's all Viking style law to, keep people as chattel, and that is where we are put. And we are living under corporations. And what we believe to be law is company policies framed or under the guise of law. And I know that many of the American people here will agree with me on that, because you can see it a little bit more clear than the poor Europeans that don't have a clue because they don't know anything else. John, sorry, Kelly. I think maybe Kelly has her hand up. I will mute myself for a while and let's get
No,
on.
I'm being behaved this time. I'm being good. I'm not dragging you down to Primrose Russia path.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. John, did you have something to add?
Nope, I'm adding food in my mouth right now.
But wait a minute. But wait. Now there's the East India Trading Company and there's the West India Trading Company, but they're not really the same freaking company. They're actually two different companies.
Yes. There are two different companies, but they are working together. In the early of the 1600s, when Elizabeth I of the Viking crown, the heir of Rollo the Viking, Richard of Normandy, that comes just after Rurik. You know, they are actually he is actually at the same time as Rurik, but he's on the western side. They are pretty simultaneously. You know, the Vikings took over Europe, and then they just scaled it up to do these East India, West India companies, whatever they call them. You know, it doesn't really matter. So this is in the early 1600, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They formed this. They have this enormously fast sailing boats that are designed and manufactured mainly in Holland, but also they will manufacture the same ones in England. But this is the private company.
Right, the Flying Dutchman thing.
Yeah. The flying
ships.
ships.
Yeah.
The flying ships. And those are equipped solely by Swedish cannons, lightweight cannons. So this is the early days of the military and industrial complex with, just-in-time deliveries and so on. And of course, these kind of people like Axel Oxenstierna and all of these guys, they are involved in this big business as well. And I know that, and soon enough, we have the 30-year war where Oxenstierna takes over Europe, more or less. And then when he's done that, he simply sits down and draws that together with his, oligarchy friends. And he says, well, we're going to do this thing called central banking. I have a plan. We're going to do central banking, and I'm the fucking rock star. So now we got to do this and this and this and this. And then we have the first central bank, boom, 1668. And he is a rock star.
And so for like 700 years, like there was almost like honest dealings, and then the central bank freaking hit, and that's the guy that did that to us, to everybody, did it to the world.
Yes. And then we have the Swedish PM today, sort of before yesterday, saying Oxenstierna still rules. That's it. And this is the same PM that is hanging out with Biden. I mean, come on, you can't make shit like this up. This is hilarious, actually. It is.
I mean, no, you think about the Holy Rus and like this whole like an attitude or a presence of this honorable and God-fearing entire region, and then in 700 years, all it takes is one bank, and 200 years later, and they're shooting the freaking Tsar.
Yep. Correct.
Not even 200, 150 years later, they're shooting the Tsar.
Yeah. It goes quick.
Mott, Axel is the one that had the people running with his carriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the rock star. So yeah, I can tell you that this is a short one. So this guy, he's just we have a king that's supposed to be the great king, the warrior king, and so on. But he's dependent on Axel, and he shows it as well, even on his castle, the Tidor castle that we talk about today. And the first central bank, he's dead when it's formed. It's put in his house, in his big mansion house, his resident house in Stockholm. That's where they put the first central bank. So this is, Tisha, as you say, this is the rock star. So when he sort of conquered Europe, he's not going to fight with the French. He doesn't need to. So when he meets Richelieu, that's the head of the church, which is the real power of France, of the French. This is the only time when Richelieu steps outside to meet anybody. Otherwise, people have to, come into his mansion, resident, whatever. But this time he steps out, he meets on the porch and so on. Then Axel enters in his carriage with the whole nobility of Europe, or not the whole nobility, but chosen ones of the nobility running after his carriage. This is how a rock star enters. This is beyond any doubt historically correct. It's 1635, I think this is. He is one hell of a powerful person as such, and he doesn't even have a title. Not a big title anyway. He's just the doer. He's the man. He's the rock star. And that's the only time that the big powerhouse of the church have to step out. And when they meet and talk, the French king is there that speaks French. But of course, Richelieu speaks in Latin to Oxenstierna, which of course speaks Latin. So the king cannot understand, insulting the king, or in an official way where people standing around them can hear, which means that, these two guys, they show, okay, we got Europe under control. So fuck you, French king. We don't care about you because we have the industrial power, we have the army power and so on, which will of course be the East India Company, which is the power, and it's a private company. And the Swedish East India Company is, just lurking around, not seemingly, but still, who manufactures the cannons, the guns, and so on. And meanwhile, getting in there, the Gustav, the Lion of the North, he just conquers Europe. He has his forces. They have hired in everybody. They have the lightweight cannons. Boom, Poland. They follows in from the Swedes. They still scare the kids with that. The Russians do as well, actually. They're just, they're just getting the job done. And then they do the East India, West India, all of these, companies, they're just taking it over. And the East India Company is the one that is causing the 1776. It's not the UK crown. The crown is the crown. The company are the ones in power. So that's it. That's why you have the Boston Tea Party. The people back then, they knew. They knew that, okay, this is the nefarious ones. Let's get this done. And they did. With some help from Gustav III, the Swedish king that had to make a revolution to overthrow the oligarchy, the heritage of Axel Oxenstierna. He overthrew them for a while. Then they did a Kennedy. They just killed him when he took control over the issue of the money. They just shot him. But he had the ability to do some good things, and he supported, together with the French, actually, believe it or not, they supported the 1776. Maybe they even were so essential, sending over very experienced troop with the best officers, and that was the Swedish one that could speak both, all kind of languages and so on, keeping the communications open, and they were pretty skilled in warfare, So they made a difference in the 1776. But this is, of course, hidden. This is something you don't want to talk about. It's the same like, the history of the Vikings. The Christians or, the church have taken away all of it, because you could not have heathens, defeating. So the Ragnar the Viking, he took Paris, and it was not even a trouble. They just went in there in the 900th century, the year of 845. They just took over Paris like that. No big deal. They just boom, Paris, you're gone. We take over here, and we keep you hostage, and you have to pay yourself out, and so on. And that ended up with Richard of Normandy hired in. That they play these games very, very carefully. They know what they're doing, so they hired in Rollo, Richard of Normandy, to protect the Seine, one of the provider of food and so on for Paris. So the French king simply hired him in, gave him his daughter as well to marry, and so on, to protect. And they didn't get attacked anymore, but the Vikings kept the control over the English Channel and all of the other waterways. So they have everybody surrounded. Boom, there you go. And that included Ukraine, the Kiev, because that is the Dnieper, the Black Sea, and they went down to the Mediterranean. They took over what today is Constantinople, where Constantinople. They put the lifeguard of the emperor there, which was like allegedly 500, even 1,500 Vikings that protected the emperor, or did they just keep him, to do what they wanted to do? You never know. So then they had the chokeholds of the Mediterranean, of the English Channel, of course, of what we today call the Baltic Sea, and so on. So they had the control of all the waterways and all of the shipping. Boom, there you go. And then they just expanded into the East India Company. It's not...
Matt, I have a question.
Yes, go.
Would you prefer to have a general army or an army full of generals?
I would prefer to have a voluntary army standing shoulder to shoulder, protecting their neighborhood and their beliefs. Because then we will never have any, we will have skirmishes and so on, village against village sometimes, over, some waters or whatever. That is the usual ones. But it will never go out of hand. We will not have a global army or a global belief system, which is what they are trying to promote.
Right.
With this
And that's why I brought that up, because in 1775, we formed the General Army. And think about that very carefully. Year prior to the signing, people assembled. They all were the same, quote, rank. So the General Army was formed year 1775. Unanimous Declaration of Independence, 1776. 6 months later, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. And the hardships they went through. But if we look at it, it's just at that point in time, the US is very, it's not densely populated, if you say so. It is actually just a few people that steps up to this. 2, 3, 4%, maybe.
We have a few hands, Mark.
It's a calling. It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
Welcome, Lavender. How are you? What's on your mind, hon?
Hello. I just had a couple questions. Thank you for the topic and all your information. It's really interesting. I've lived in Norway before for many years. Not many, but many. I can compare a little bit Norway to the US, I have some ability to do that. So I wanted to ask Mott about what he knows about the Laplanders and the Sami. And also, I was curious about the settlements in Florida. And if you know anything about how this would connect to terraforming and Ghislaine Maxwell. Just curious. Those are my questions. Thank you.
You mean Terra Mar underneath the water? Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yes.
So if we start from the rear the rear end of it, so to speak, settlements in Florida. That I've been in San Augustine for quite a while. I guess we are talking about that. Yeah. Okay. We get back to that because that's sort of well. I am from north of the polar circle. I have my roots there, way up, where we have daylight at this point of year, all the day, or 24/7, so to speak. So I have my roots. The map in the Nordic countries is drawn the wrong way around, just as in the Middle East or just as in Africa. These people are doing it to themselves, to their people as well. They do not care. They are corporations, corporatism. That is the ultimate part of what we, when people talk about this, they say it's fascism, when corporate and state goes together. It's not even that.
Commercial corporations, more importantly.
Yeah. So they draw on the map with regard of Lavender's question here. They draw the map with the lines going north to south, and if you look at a map, you will see what's in the center of it. It is Sweden. That's how far it's gone. When you will see it's in the center. It's a little bit up, but it's in the center. It's sort of in the center. Well, you have the Greenwich Mean Time in Great Britain, but if you look at the map when they lay it out, you will find Sweden in the center. This is just, but the Finnish laps, the Swedish laps in the northern region, the Norwegian laps in the very north of Norway, they sort of have been speaking and still are sort of speaking the same language, which is not really Finnish, which is not really Swedish, which is not really Norwegian. It's their language. And then that region and that set of people, they are not fitting into the north to south border thing. And this is, of course, as per, just take Israel for one example, or other regions. We prefer the divide and conquer, therefore we draw the borders like this. This is outspoken when it comes to the Israel situation by Mr. Picot, the Sykes-Picot Treaty, which is actually the Balfour Declaration. But the Balfour Declaration is just a red shield, the Rothschilds, the shields, that shield Wallenberg, their shield. That's the Rothschilds, the red shield.
Oh, Sweden and Norway both have the crosses, but they're different colors in their flags.
Yeah, but Norway is a subset. It's well, the Norwegian people are more steadfast than the Swedish. Still, I've spent quite a few years working in Norway. actually a decade or so within the oil industry. And I can tell you one thing, it's not fossil fuel. That is just pure fucking standard oil Rockefeller bullshit. That is it's not even a good psyop. The Nobel Prize, it's a good psyop. That is a really good psyop. But the other one, it's just any oil engineer, not any, but the oil engineers at the top level, they pretty much know about this, but they simply don't speak about it because they just feel that, well, there's no point in ruining the dinner, is it? With lots of believers. But that's the truth of it. That's how easy it is. It is not even complicated when it comes to some kind of technical geological explanation, physiological.
Right. They're trying to push the archaeological dig aspect right now, it seems, and I don't know why.
Yeah. It's happening marvelous things with inside the archaeological. There are so many free thinkers that suddenly have got money. They are exploring things. They are even talking about the northern regions, Lavender. The northern regions of Sweden, probably Finland and Norway as well. Maybe not so much the northern of Norway because there was not much mining there. It was other businesses, but they moved the advanced manufacturing of iron, multi-layer iron for weapons and so on. They moved it to prior to year zero. And the narrative has been that it started in the 1300s. So this is, same goes for hydropower and so on. The pyramids, they found pyramids that are 15,000 years older than the old narrative. So everything is, the world has been upside down and it's twisting its way to get back on track, according to me. I might be wrong, but I've done my best to understand and read all of this history, and I have had the pure luck to work with people within the news business, within the engineering business. I've been to the fighter jet factories, and I know some shit. so I made up my mind about how falsified history is, and for that, of course, both the left and the right, they really hate me. So and the more hate I get, the better it is, because you don't take flack until you're over the target, and none of the big names will even, they don't even consider to have an argument or the discussion or whatever on the X platform in the Nordics, and so they don't want to, because they are what they are. So let's see if we can make a republic. We are going for a republic in Sweden. And Lavender, maybe I missed one of your questions.
Just if you had any connections, that the fact that you're talking about a seafaring society, which I'm familiar with the boats, and I mean the ships are amazing, and I've sailed on quite a few wooden small sailboats, but yeah, the connection to Terramar, terraforming or whatever.
I will give you. I will put the article up later on. We have we have quite good connections actually. So we go to Epstein first. That's the Swedish School of Economics in Stockholm, which is a Wallenberg school, more or less. They have quite a good connection through a woman called Barbro Enbom, and also to Epstein's ex wife, not wife, they were just living together, former model things, sort of. She ended up into being a plastic surgeon, breast cancer and all the usual stuff there. She's a friend of the Queen as well in Sweden, and they have access into to the monarchy, of course, since they are. So this Barbara mom, and she also has a connection actually to Hunter Biden, because they were hanging out at the House of Sweden, the Swedish embassy in DC, of course, at the same point of time. She has free access to there as well. So she provided her part of the Epstein operation. Just to give a context, I have an extensive article on that, so I will put it out. Or maybe the secretary could help out. She will find the BBB article and put it out, so I can keep my concentration here. So that is one connection, of course, and the other connection is quite a few people from this Stockholm School of Economics ended up in the World, I can't remember the name, the World Ocean Society, something like that, hanging out with
Oceanic.
Yeah, something like that. So these people, they've been hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. And Ghislaine Maxwell is both now she's in prison, which is quite good actually. She's learning Russian in the prison to keep herself sane. I wonder why. Allegedly, according to newspaper article, so these guys, since they are working in a legal realm, that is the maritime law, the common law by accident, Lavender, but just by accident, is coming from Wilhelm the Conqueror. That actually, just by a chance, formed the city of London in 1067, where, believe it or not, my dear ladies and gentlemen, the second central bank of the world is formed in 1694, and it's a blueprint of the first one. Okay, Axel Oxenstierna is dead since long, but his plan is still executed. 1694, the second central bank of the world, the Bank of England, inside the city of London. And the city of London operates under the legal realm of Admiralty law, not of the English law, not of any other law. They are also in this nick of times. They are also providing in 1670, just 2 years after the first central bank, well, the East India Company gets the grant to mint money and create banks. And these banks, they will be the core bank that are created up until 1874, when they just, boom, it goes away. No more East India Company. And that is also quite strange. That's just a few years after the 1871 coup d'etat in the US.
But one thing I want to add for anyone who may need this, it's an important fact of just I guess balance of things, just to help everyone, that when you're having a thought of the corporations as a whole, because it's intended to weigh us down from our take us away from our furthest point of freedom. It's all piled weight. Think of the movie Back to the Future, and Biff Tannen crashes into a big pile of shit. It's the same adage, but that pile of shit are these pieces of paper, and you're buried under these corporate constructs, and it's suffocating. It's suffocating. And in hindsight, I do want to say that regardless of what the media narrative may have been, the aspect of, the boot on the leg up, kind of, you think of those oil paintings with the hidden hand, right hand in the inside coat pocket sort of thing with one leg up. That could have multiple meanings, and that's the point, because where there's a sign everywhere, a sign, right? What's inside of sign? So just keep that in mind, because it's the lowering of us, right? It's the pressure, it's the compounding, and it's intended intentionally by people who only care about the singular one of themselves, and everybody else could crash and burn, which they don't realize that it's affecting them. Everything they do is affecting everyone but them too. So I just want to throw that out there, because it's important to, when if anyone needs to get to the point of just releasing anything, releasing pain, releasing heartache, communication discombobulation in your head, just take some time and remove yourself from all of the elements that are seemingly binding you down, and just think, just be, but just think, and just think of why you're all of a sudden in a better place and more calm, because your mind slowed down. The mind is connected to an opposite and equal void in the world that will be filled with you. So your heartache is caused by your head. Your head and your thoughts cause a chain reaction of events that take place. And so it's important to, once again, and every day I try and have the same sort of reflective things. It's called rest, not sleep. When you sleep, when you die. Rest is just a break. You're having a little siesta, a little vacay under the curtains of the eyelids, right? So just think of it that way, and it's because it's important to go in that REM sort of sleep, right? But not remittance as in anything other than internal remittance.
Well put, John. Thank you for that. Kelly, go ahead, hon.
Awesome, thanks, y'all. I know this is not. You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like what I'm about to say. You're not gonna like me over it. That's cool. There's a doctor, Edwin J. Vieira, and he has several degrees from Harvard in constitutional law and law study. And he got really upset some years ago about the way our country was, spiraling toward, and got to really thinking about it, and put together 3 books to try to get enough people, just a handful of people really, together to turn things around. And the first book is called Constitutional Homeland Security. And what he presents in this book is that a standing army cannot coexist in a republic. It's just not possible. They're 2 different things. And when the very first Minutemen, we won't say the other word with the M because people get all hurt, but when the Minutemen were started, like you said, it was a small group, and they, got in there and kicked butt and chewed bubble gum, ran out of bubble gum, kept kicking butt. But when they wrote the document, it it was compulsory. Conscription was compulsory. Every single male aged 16 to 45 had to be a member of the Minutemen and had to muster regularly and march. They were vested and accoutred. And it was in 1903 that the passing of the Dick Act destroyed, just ripped our teeth out of our face. I mean, America lost her teeth that day in 1903 when there was suddenly a regulated or organized militia, and then there was an unorganized militia, which nowhere in the Constitution is unorganized militia listed. That's nothing. It's a well-regulated militia that is
What
administered to.
constitution, though? I have to ask that.
Pardon me?
What constitution are you referring to?
The first one.
Oh, okay.
When the founders wrote the original document, it was that's how it was set up. And in fact, Congress was charged with not only minting our money, ha ha ha, but also that if you could not afford a firearm, Congress had to provide you one. They had to give you a gun. And so it was a very different type of setup, a completely different society, especially as far as being, responsible for your own backyard, your own self, but also your backyard, your town, your city, your county, and everything was split into like county type deals, parish, whatever, and every single unit of the Minutemen could fall in with every other unit across the land and step. There's no nobody could mess with us then. But then they divided and conquered. We know the rest of the story. But he it's a workbook. If anybody would be interested in tackling it with me, I'd like to do spaces on it. And just like you can't buy the book anymore. It's not in print. I can't find it used. I've got a copy, and I've got Dr. Vieira's worksheets also. His second book was The Sword and the Purse, and the third book I'm drawing a blank now because I'm all freaking. Don't challenge me.
No,
But yeah,
you have really amazing points. And one thing I want to add to what you were saying, for everyone to keep in mind, you don't need my permission to do anything. We don't need each other's permission unless it's in a matter of ownership, own within themselves. So if I claim something to be mine, it's mine. But I am willing to share it if somebody were to ask, right? And the reason why I say it in that manner is because it is a matter, we are matter of manners, because manners are of men being mankind. And so we have every ability, every single one of us, to write and declare our own set of constitutions. We will be subservient otherwise if we don't. Okay? So our Constitution and the foundation thereof, the original signers of that declaration, although not enacted as in motion, forwarded, passed, forwarding. Think of an email, right? You forward an email to someone, that's an action, an act. So an act is in part of an action. And so ultimately, I don't want to get too down front, back, side to side. But I'm bringing it back to the wedding right now. So ultimately, what I'm getting at is try and don't prove me wrong. Prove yourself wrong. If you have doubt, the doubt is more than not because of a derived misconception, thought, or process. So find me somewhere that anyone states, other than by declaration and in a matter of trespass, if I trespass on your rights or your property or whatever, that we can't each individually create our own. You see, because every one of the founders knew how to wield that authority. They were sovereign when they needed to be as individual men and women, as in singular, one man, one woman, come together, make a union, a unity.
Hey, John, I will add that like I said, it was compulsory. You could buy your way out, or you could work within the Minutemen as like a cook or in the livery or filing papers or whatever. You didn't have to carry a gun, but you had no choice, or you would be taken to courts martial. So there's a whole other court system that was part of our America.
That's
mind-boggling.
It just takes a minute, though.
That is Axel Oxenstierna style, straight up. That is a copy of the Swedish system. You've been had by the Operation Falukorv for a long time. Never forget that.
Mott, just as your fellow Swede, did you see that the famous rap artist Anders Don Demina in Sweden has made a documentary today about the family Wallenberg, where he talks about that they probably are controlling Sweden and much more. I put it up in the Jumbotron. It's very what can I say? It's becoming very evident now that for the general population in Sweden that Wallenbergs are behind a lot of things in the development of Sweden.
Yeah, for sure they are, and hopefully the main population. But it's getting mainstream now. I mean, there's been some tries before, but now it's getting. Thank you for the information. When we see, like celebrities also, which is quite uncommon, but I will have a look at it. Thank you very much, and please hang on, Vaxprop, which is very very much Swedish, and it's I don't know how to say that in English actually. Anyway,
if you know, right, Matt?
Yeah. Vaxprop is a world of knowledge. I would say we have had many great discussions in Swedish, so just hang on there because we can talk about this. So, guys, if you've been in these spaces listening to me, I said many times, Kelly, the founding fathers wrote the Constitution as a defense document against Axel Oxenstierna's empire. They knew him, their grandparents and so on. They knew what they were doing, and for them, he was not unknown. He just was sort of scrubbed out of history, whatever. So I've said this many times, and I do think that I have grasped the rock and the hard place that John Adams and Washington found themselves to be in with accordance to the standing army or not. That they really were put in in a bad place by this. But nevertheless, let's not forget about that the Supreme Court and the Swedish High Court, with sort of the same purpose, was formed in lockstep in 1789. So this is the heritage of Oxenstierna. And it's epic that our prime minister goes out now and since people didn't understand this with Tidö, his castle, and so on, and all of this, they just have to push it further here. And in Sweden, the people are sort of, well, there are many people that is grasping this now, I think, but they don't know what to do. They are confused. There is no plan.
Matt, let me say one thing real quick. There's two castles, right? So the importance is, think of the wolf nursery rhyme, right, with the three little pigs, and the wolf huff and puff and blow your house down. So keep in mind that I feel that sometimes it's a little misunderstood or taken out of context, the thought of the castle, right? Because castle king, but
it's your mind.
It's good to have a stern, a good foundation.
It's your mind. It is your mind that I'm talking about. Your mind is your castle. If you can keep it intact, it doesn't matter who blows at it or who hits it or whatever. Your mind is still the strongest part of your body. Believe it or not, that is the way it goes. So
Ripley's, believe it or not.
Yeah. So I'm just going to return to one question from Lavender. I tried to find the article about the Biden administration claiming like a 1 million square kilometers or acres, can't remember which, of the seabed on the northern part of America towards Antarctica. I couldn't find the article, but they did it, and that is totally out of the ordinary. That's the same with the Project Terramar, which is the oligarchy, the corporations trying to get control over the seabeds and I don't mean just around the shores, all of it. This is what they are doing, and Maxwell was deeply involved in this. That is sort of a psyop, you could call it, to get people to comply with this, and of course the countries that will stand up to the oligarchy, they will be overrun, just as with the central banking. If you do not want to be within the central banking, the Bank for International Settlements system, IMF, World Bank, blah, 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 all of this, Bretton Woods, you will be overrun one way or the other. And unfortunately, this has been put, the largest part of this task have been put upon the US. 3-letter agencies, the US, the White Hand, the US military forces, in air, on ground, and on the sea. It's been put on them. It's a different case, I think, and I hope, with the Space Force. You cannot really know, but I think they actually are quite different, and they are created for one sole purpose, and that is to take care of the transition from the Swedish-US combined military, industrial, banking powers, the oligarchy, in a smooth way, but they need to have control over some digital communications and so on to make sure. And so I think that is the sole purpose of the Space Force. I cannot know. I'm not sitting in on the planning department. I wish I would, but maybe my role is different. Maybe your role is different. Maybe they are the cool dudes and ladies that take care of that business. At least it seems like that. I don't know. I love the X-37Bs, the autonomous vehicles that travels the skies and pick down, the oligarchy satellites and take care of business up there, whatever they are doing, because that is a new legal room. It is not air, as in law. Law is land, air, water. And water will mean the maritime admiralty law, which we are lost at sea under. That's the old Viking seafarer law, which is the commercial law. And when we enter the era of us being numbered, we had a big problem. And then they, of course, have to keep the smoke and the mirrors to keep us in that system. And the easiest way to control that is to control the monetary system, but because then we will be blinded by running for their monetary shit house paper that is not worth anything. It's created out of thin air and it buys your time. You sell your time for nothing. You sell your time for something that somebody just have invented to control you. And it is a problem. We live in a complex society where they had to, and believe me when I said had to, increase the world population by 4.5 times since 1947, when Sweden was first out with the the social security numbers and numbering.
How many times? What was that number again?
4.5 times, because you have that is the increase of the world population in just 80 years.
Now, is that 45 or
No,
is that 4 and 1/2?
4 and 1/2.
4.5.
4.5 times. 4.5. That's how we say it in Mordorian. So yeah, 4.5 times. So that is, if you look at the world population from, if you look at the the graph of it, the statistical graph of it, and zoom out a little bit, it will look like a hockey stick.
Well, I'm about to hop on my cult in a minute, so.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is totally crazy. And to do that, you needed fertilizer, and to get the fertilizer, you need the invention of the rail cannon to be able to manufacture the fertilizer, and that will bring you to some historical, very interesting figures. That is the discoverer, the inventor, the creator of the brilliant scientist that discovered the nuclear power. And that will bring you to the Wallenberg family, because they sort of stole it from him and they handed it over to Lise Meitner and Otto Hahn. Otto Hahn actually got the Nobel Prize, the Merchant of Death Prize. And Lise Meitner and her colleagues provided this critical information and the design how to build and make a nuclear device go boom to the Oppenheimer project. Without the Wallenbergs, no boom in Hiroshima, no boom in Nagasaki. But they needed that because their sort of Third Reich project thing went maybe a little bit sideways, and that is why they had to also pull in the Pearl Harbor to make the American send the young ones to die for nothing. It's a false flag.
Oh, I'm sorry. We lost Lavender. We do have a new speaker up.
Yes.
Newland?
Ja, helt seriöst, vad pratar du om, grabben? I'm Swedish as well, sorry. You didn't know that, right?
No. Did you have a question for Mr. Mott?
I was just shooting his bullshit. That's all.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for that. We did lose someone that had their hand up. Let me go. Find Lavender. I'm gonna go. There you are. Oh no, we have a new speaker. Okay.
Thank you,
Galcha.
Tish.
I'm sorry, Galchi.
Oh,
Hello.
I have a question for Mr. Mott Bombadil.
Of course.
Yes. Why do you work against the interests of the Swedish people, and that you're trying to expose the great and kind family of the Wallenbergs? And why would you try to expose their businesses around the world and expose the interests of the Swedish people? I think that we should arrest you and put you in prison for your crimes against the Swedish nation.
Take it easy, Tish. Take it easy, Tish.
I don't
Galchi.
know.
Take it easy, Tish. I know Galchi. No problems. I know Galchi. So Galchi, my theory on this is that the Wallenbergs family, as of the mid-90s, late 90s, have realized where this is going, and it's not going to be beneficial for their heritage, the coming generations. So they decided just to throw all the sub-oligarchs and the obedient servants, meaning the media and others, under the bus and making a better world. That is my theory. I don't know.
Galchi,
So I think I'm helping them out.
Yes, Galchi, we're looking for the truth. So maybe you should
Well,
just
no.
listen
I
up.
have a question. I have a question real quick. Are you on your dad's account right now, or
On my dad's account?
Wait, the photo. Yeah, your dad's account.
No, why would I be on my dad's account?
I don't know.
Well,
What
That's what I'm
makes
wondering. I'm wondering. Do you sound? You sound like you sound like a dad, but with a woman's face. So I didn't know if this was your dad's account.
No, wouldn't it be my daughter's account if I'm the dad, sounding like a dad, and it's a female picture?
At face value.
Yeah, I would make
We
more
don't want
sense,
to.
wouldn't
We
it?
don't want to assume, Galchi. We don't want to assume.
I'm giving you a hard time. I'm just having fun with you. That's all.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with you, man. But thank you, Mott. And I think that you should not inform these international people. There might be Jews here, there might be Americans here, and we don't want them to understand what we're doing in the Kingdom of Sweden. We need to stay tight. We need to run a tight-knit operation together, Mott, and no fucking people going AWOL or
Hey, watch
joining
your
the
mouth.
enemy. This we need to stay like a family, like a Swedish family, and I don't like you going around speaking in different languages about our business. Okay?
We're a world family, Galchi. Get that
No,
straight.
that's a lie.
We're a worldly family. Yes, we
Well,
are.
I don't know if don't put words in Mott's mouth. I don't appreciate that because he can speak freely as he chooses. It's the power of freedom of speech. So just as we're allowing you to speak, that's fine. But I don't like you saying that it's. Excuse me. One moment, please. So, I do hear what you are saying, but in respect to what? Because there's multiple kingdoms. So my question is, why would you entrap him in that sort of way in an almost nefarious corporate type construct?
Because we're a tribe, and we used to rule the world. We own all the telecommunication systems, but I'm not supposed to be talking about this. So you're not gonna get any more answers from me. But I just want Tom to know that we're watching him, and if he goes around yapping and spilling tea all over the internet, we're gonna have a problem, me and Tom.
I love you, Galchi.
I got a mopping bucket. We're good.
I love you, Galchi. Galchi knows quite a few things about how the world is functioning and so on. And I really do appreciate talking to him. Actually, you would not believe me, maybe, but that is just a little bit of a cultural touch, So how we approach things. And that is always appreciated from actually
So
from
he's
knowledge.
like really smart. He just sounds like a dumbass. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Du får prata för dig själv i det läget.
He wants to he wants to get information out, and he is also a free thinker, and he would like people to think for themselves if they can manage critical thinking. That is the stronghold of Galchi. So I really appreciate it. No problems about that. So he will have a mic, and he can contribute. He talks the way that the younger generation is doing, and we should appreciate that. Putting a little bit of irony into things. We don't have to agree. I would say that we don't have to agree on this, but Galchi knows the story. He puts his side on it, and he tries to show what he wants to show. And the people that want to listen to him, they will listen to him, and they will understand. They might have a laugh. Some people will get, a little bit angry, turn up some emotions or so on, which is fine. That's just go ahead. He has the knowledge. He has the facts. We can stand on different sides. No problem.
Thank you for your kind words, Tom. I'm gonna go down into the audience now, and I'm gonna surveil Tom from a distance. And thank you for the mic. Yeah.
You do that from a distance, Galchi. Thank
I
you for
almost
coming
broke
up.
out in a song there.
But it has crossed my mind, Mott. That like, are you supposed to be doing this? I mean, it has crossed my
Well,
mind. I've been concerned about
well,
you.
you have to hear the back end of what Galchi is saying. This is not something I will speak about by myself. You just have to listen a little bit between the lines. You will get it.
But you're okay. I don't need to like pray all night long about you, right?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
I'm okay. Being from the north of the polar circle, and there's been some hell and high waters. I would tell you, but I'm okay.
Yeah, you got a little bit of thick skin. I can tell. I hear it in your accent. But that doesn't mean I won't keep you in my prayers.
You
Those
said
are
what?
appreciated.
Dearly appreciated. Thank you. And give Galchi mic when he wants to come up. He's not a boomer, so he doesn't really speak, boomer-ish. He's a good guy.
You're very kind, Mott. Very kind.
Yeah, but it is the truth. So I'm there are some deeper discussions there will be some political discussions later on. I'm not so very into the politics. We have to understand and have some critical thinking on how we got here. Then we can start to discuss, the different entities, the lies, the smoke and the mirrors, what is the reasonable truth, and then we, by our critical thinking, we have to decide what way to move forward. Which many countries have done now. The BRICS is here. It's not going to go away. The oligarchy dollar is going to die. That's it. And at that point, when this happens, it's gonna get a bit bumpy. But if we are discussing this openly in spaces, which will of course glitch us out and turn us down and whatever, and not be running around with emotions, and we are not really doing this in these spaces, which is very good. We try to stay as level-headed as possible, and I do appreciate that.
And it's done in very how can I say it? It's done in educational ways, right? So if you think about it, it's nothing to be fearful of at all whatsoever. Actually, as a matter of fact, it's a very good thing. There's very many good things by very many good people involved in efforts, right? So this is nothing to be fearful of for anybody who isn't aware of the monetary element. There has to be a fall of the veil, right? There has to be a fall of this, and that's what some people in microdoses call the piercing of the veil. But ultimately, it gets removed. The clothes come off, right? And we come in the same way and out the same way. So
the emperor is naked. The emperor is naked, or the king is naked. I can't remember what the correct translation of that history is, but the king is naked.
Oh, it was the emperor, honey. It was the
Thank
emperor. He's
you.
a fine man. Yeah.
Emperor has no clothes.
Yeah, and with that said, I can see Kimberly is here. I don't know if Rob is. My screen is messing up a little bit, but I mean, I think we have explained the monetary system over, in, out, sideways, upside down. We'll be doing it hanging in one fingertip on a cliff, whatever. We have explained it so many times. If anybody has any questions about that, please come up. But do understand that the monetary system goes from the first central bank that actually tried fiat even before they started the first central bank, which failed epically at that point in time because people didn't really well, people were smarter. Whatever, it failed epically, sort of 1661, whatever. And then they discover, okay, we do it this and we take it a little bit more slow. We boil the frog slowly. That is the saying here. So
Oh, real
Well,
quick update now that I'm thinking of it. Sorry, Tish, go ahead.
no, I was just going to welcome Kimberly, but yeah, John.
There was an update yesterday, I believe, in regards to Apple. And the update in part has to do with communication. And why that's important is because the texting feature with Android devices, for instance, Apple is end to end, and the communication isn't always in sync, let's just say. And so the Apple devices and the Android devices, it's one of the things that we are experiencing in spaces also. Although ultimately the numbers, the different things like that, but you got to think of the divide, right? So it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying, I jokingly refer to it as the forbidden fruit, okay? But when you're dealing with communication on proprietary things, Apple being a corporation, proprietary app being pre-installed on every single Apple device, as opposed to Android, which is completely open source at this point. Now you have the bridge that's being formed. So it's going to really, really enhance a lot of things for a lot of people. And it's going to be able to seamlessly, slowly through these educational aspects that I was speaking to before, transition. And people will be able to empower themselves and their families. And, let's just say the wealth is being divvied. That's the best way to say it.
Thank you,
yeah,
John.
and none, as you know, I'm gonna say this, I have to say it, none of these devices will run without the Wallenberg's patents. Actually the, the Apple has been in quite a big fight with Ericsson, which is Wallenberg, which sits on the 60,000 patents that run the internet. And just as a sidekick, they also run the Nasdaq, which also runs the other stock markets, the 150 stock markets all over the world. And just as young Mr. Galchi said before, he said, well, we have the telecoms in 180 plus countries. Well, we also run the power grids in 150 of these countries. And by the way, the Five Eyes are not the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes are the Five Eyes running the show for the sixth eye, the Soren's eye, sitting, the Stockholm telephone tower is not there anymore, but it was there when Tolkien was doing his excellent work in writing a manual of how to bring Bombadil down.
So remember this, though. I said Apple and Android specifically. So Google purchased Motorola. Google purchased Android. Google is in control of the International World Patent Office. Important. And what's happening on a top level through the Supreme Courts of the United States of America. We're rolling some things back, right? So rolling back as in eliminating some of the negative aspects. And on the top level, you have to see how that plays a role into the 1871, let's just say, of things, when it comes to the corporate conglomeracy that we thought once was, because essentially being open source now, including the government in many ways. People just have to dig and look and go into these government websites and go into them and read. Just read. It's important because it's the information's out there. D-class happened. It did. And so now we're decentralized. And now that stronghold isn't quite as strong of a divide. We're dividing ourselves, and that's important to really stop for a moment and just think that what if, what if the actual powers that once were are no longer, and we are taking back control. But we individually have to take control of our own lives then too, and that starts with educating ourselves. And that's why I speak to that, because the I don't dispute what you're saying, and you're correct. Now the strength that once was, um, people may shift into different things or cages. I don't know.
Cages. That's terrifying.
We're just going to get out of the mass hypnosis or the mass formation and get rid of the German school, the Prussian school. And we have to trust our young ones, the generations that gonna, pull this forward. There are many of them that are really, they have a total different way than us boomers or boomers, whatever we are, in handling information, and that is a good thing. That there are 30 or 40% of them that have the ability of critical thinking. There are many of them that are really affected by many generations of the Prussian school. That is a bad thing. But when they learn about Axel Oxenstierna, it all will be clear. It is so clear. It just follow him and his heritage, and you see it. You see the Vikings, you see the East India Company. Now we have Vanguard, BlackRock, run by investor out of Sweden. So Galshi is not wrong. He's just telling it his way. Hey, why do you want to sabotage our rule of the world? Well, there we go. It's a very small country, but it's very sharp. And why did Trump go after Ericsson? If you go after Ericsson, well, then you have to know that you are in a hot spot or in a bad spot. Oh, I see James and Kimberly is up. I'm going to rest my case here now. Tisha, take the wheel.
Yes, Kimberly, welcome. How are you?
Hey y'all.
Hey y'all.
We're still down here in the dark, down here in South
Oh, you're in
Texas.
Texas. Oh no.
Okay, so I just went to Target and they have their power back, but obviously they lost all their
Oh,
perishables. But what I wanted to say, oh, go
quick,
ahead.
quick, Kimberly. So you are on the ABB power grid.
I am I
Yeah, the Swedes are turning your lamp off. Well, you could say so. Actually, that as a matter of fact, it's actually, well, technically it's correct, but that could be many reasons. But technically, it is correct actually. So yeah, Kimberly, go ahead. Sorry, I just had to say that because just Texas is very much ABBB. And well, they can call it Hitachi these days as well, but same, doesn't really matter. Vanguard, BlackRock investor, you can twist it around all the time. You will land in at the address that I have in my bio, or in my the Arsenalsgatan. You will land there. But anyways, sorry, Kimberly, go ahead. And thank you for your great work and in these previous spaces in talking about the monetary and the US as such. Dearly appreciate it, Kimberly.
Thank you. My goal is to help people regain their power by having confidence in yourself that you can observe the world around you. You can use logic and critical thinking and reasoning and creativity, your unique gifts and talents, your unique experience, to come to conclusions about what's going on in the world around you. Everybody's looking for the source. Who created this? Where is the overarching authority? You, my friend, are the authority. Genesis 1. Rule over all the birds of the air, the fish of the sea, and the creatures that move along the ground. Nowhere in there does it say anything about legal fictions, corporations, commercial corporations, or the like. So, in 2013, Pope Benedict XVI resigns his post as the ecumenical pope, right? Pope Francis is a Jesuit, which means he never can be the ecumenical pope. He can only be the Roman pontiff.
Kim, I heard today that they actually referred to him as the Red Pope. That was quite interesting.
Yeah, I saw a post about that, but I didn't really dig too much into it. But I want you to think about this. We know that the world is operating under the ancient code of Hammurabi, which is known as law merchant, or on the land, merchant law. See, they have this mirror, right, where we say tomato, they say tomato. And law merchant is governed under the Uniform Commercial Code, international private law. It's a law between all the commercial entities. Well, what are commercial entities? There's sister corporations, and there's an ultimate parent. There can be a parent corporation and an ultimate parent. And let me tell you that the United States government, their family tree from Dun & Bradstreet's has over 53,000 entries. They have corporation after corporation after corporation after corporation after corporation that they don't even know about.
The art of cloaking.
So when you want to create a business and you're like, oh, I need a business, I need a name, I need a business plan, I need to, be able to get credit. What do I have to do to be, quote, legal? So you go talk to a little barrister, and he says, oh man, you got to incorporate because you'll save money on your taxes. Well, living men and women are naturally tax exempt, and all your vessels are tax prepaid. So all government services around the world have been prepaid since 1941. So what do you need to save on, quote, taxes? So who are you paying taxes to, and for what? You're paying taxes to the British monarch and to the Pope, a tribute payment. Go straight to their pocket. Meanwhile, they're insuring you. Now, why am I saying all these things? Because when you think about how they've orchestrated all of this, you're going to start to realize that they have incentive to do what they're doing, to kill someone and siphon off the insurance and siphon off the trust and bring an end to what they owe the man or woman. So all these posts are going around about the interest on the debt, and there is no debt, not in America, because our monetary system is on a basis where, if you look at the Constitution, right, the living men and women signed under the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution says that money is gold and silver. So we contract with them to provide us with services. We issue them credit. They send us a bill. We pay the bill in gold and silver. The problem is they're have been charging us off of the assets and the credit that come from our land and soil assets for their business operations. So all of the costs of doing business, they're billing to us. And they're taking all the profit. And they're putting insurance policies, right? Because in the commercial world, the whole reason why, when we chartered the United States Inc., the charter was that they could have public bankruptcy protection and the ability to have limited liability insurance. So if the individual corporation has limited liability insurance, who's ultimately responsible? The ultimate parent corporation. Who is that? The Pope. and all of his instrumentalities. So what?
Or Kimberly, or just let me put in a little bit of or that, or possibly the entity that kept the Pope under siege for 500 years,
Well,
and
yes, they has been infiltrated. I'll give you that. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just say it's the Pope and his instrumentalities, right? All of those little tools he used: the Holy See, the Vatican, the Holy Roman Empire, the Roman Pontiff.
the doctrine of discovery, perhaps.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that has been revoked.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I know. Let me finish, please.
yes, of course. I'm just adding. I'm just adding.
Okay. I just don't want to forget my train of thought, and I'm very ADHD these days. Okay, so, and this is all in light of the whole COVID, I mean, you guys know my mom was poisoned by by gadolinium, the MRI contrast drug. She suffered and was tortured for 13 months, and she died recently, and I'm dealing with autopsy and litigation and the whole thing. And so what motivates them? Why do they want to kill off the young, the old, and the sick? Because they want to collect on that life force annuity. And they want to scrape all the assets off the trust. But here's the deal. Everything was incorporated into the United States Inc. and its various derivatives. And therefore, when they file Chapter 7 involuntary liquidation, every commercial corporation is bankrupt. Bankrupt. Now, in 2022, in June, the Supreme Court ruled on a case called the West Virginia versus EPA. And that case was a general questions doctrine. In other words, any case that even resembles that case falls into that major questions doctrine. And that question was, can an agency like the EPA come in and make industry-wide sweeping change? Do
HHS
they?
CPS.
Yes. So EPA, HHS, CDC, NIH, any of those agencies. And the court ruled that no, only Congress has rule-making authority. So all of those three-letter agencies were dead in the water. That was 2 years ago. Now, in the Loper case, they've overturned the Chevron doctrine, which says, hey, the court's not really an expert in environmental issues, and so we're going to defer the decision to the agency who are the experts who know about environmental protection. So you have this situation. I'm going to give you an example. Get the lead out. The EPA has challenged all of these cities, incorporated entities, sister corporations to the city of Rome. Are you a member of the city? The city of Houston, or the city of Kansas, or the city of Chicago? They say Chicago, which would indicate land and soil. But their real name is City of Chicago, doing business as Chicago.
Under
Which
the
is,
umbrella of the ABA.
yes. So the EPA comes in and they say, oh, well, we're really concerned about lead in the pipes that's getting into the water, and it's bringing health concerns to our persons, corporations, which are legal fictions, things of the mind that don't really exist. So they come in and say, hey, we require you to do a lead test on your pipes, or to allow us to come in and do a lead test on your pipes and give us an inventory. And to which the people in Kansas say, no, you don't have any authority. Because you want to come in my house and test my pipes, and then you want to come in my house and see how much food I have stored, and then you want to come in my house and see what my ammunition and my gun situation or my armaments looks like. You want to come in and, see how much gold I have stored, or no. Your responsibility ends at the easement. And they've done all of this chicanery and all this trickery and all of this bourgeois to take advantage of the unknowing. So now with Loper, you say, hey, you don't have any authority. You have no rulemaking authority. Not even the president has rulemaking authority. None of them have rulemaking authority. So what now? The military is in charge of the administration of the corporation that is dwindling down. What does the military know about running a corporation of that size? That's like asking a bunch of doctors to go run a hospital. They're scientists, they're artists, they're scientific thinkers. They're not business strategists, planners, and so they defer to the attorneys. And what do the attorneys do? They take you down into the ditch and leave you without a winch to get out. So, all I'm saying, in light of all the history that Mont so graciously graced us with, just remember, they are all bankrupt. They are in receivership to us, the people. And guess how many people have come home? Well, we don't really know, but it's a really small percentage, overall speaking, who have raised their hand and said, hey, I'm standing on the land and soul as one of the people, not persons, and I'm here to take my authority and my responsibility back and do the work of the actual government, holding these guys, the federal government, the contract government, in check. And that includes the corporate feudalism and the corporatocracy around the world. So every country that gave up their sovereignty to incorporation is going to have to re-engage based on their founding documents, and they're going to have to stand up their land and soil jurisdiction governments of the people. And this is going to be world-changing, and it's probably going to be scary for some people if you're not paying attention and you don't know what's going on, you don't know the history. But I've been saying this for years. Don't miss it. We are living in probably one of the greatest times in history. And it's up to us to make sure that what's happened and what is to happen right now, today, doesn't get lost tomorrow.
Yep. We have Kimberly. Thank you very much. Beautifully spoken. I'm grateful that you come here and talk to us about this in the way that you do it in so well, let's call it so
I need to say
easy.
when you're done, I want to say one more thing before I pass the mic.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so think about this. And this is how Satan himself works, right? He's a conniver. He's got a small bag of tricks. He lies, he cheats, he steals, he begs, he borrows, he pleads. That's not the way of life. That's not life-giving. So they've taken all of these corporations around the world and they've nested them like nesting boxes into each other. And so you've got the big four corporations at the top. BlackRock, Vanguard, etc. So what they did to harness power by nesting these corporations together is going to be their downfall. What the devil meant for evil, God will turn for good. So that means ultimately we've only got to take down a few of these corporations to make everything else fall. It's like Jenga blocks. You just pull the right one and they all come tumbling down.
Kim, you want to know something interesting? One of the perpetrators trespass on my life. It was in part responsible of the theft of my son, Her name was Kimberly. And you and I are very close, and we're very kind to each other. And I love a lot of what you've been doing to help so many. So I just wanted to add that, because that's deception, steering and remote controlling through various mains and modes and motives that they have, and that's just how it works. That's how the cookie crumbles, right? But I find it interesting that we came together.
So listen, there's laws that govern the universe, and they are universal, they're immutable, and they're impartial. God put them in place before time began. And he knew that Eve was going to eat the fruit. He didn't stop her. The consequence was already there. He doesn't have to say, oh, well, I told you not to do that, and you disobeyed, and you were, you shouldn't have done it, and so here's the consequence, and I'm really mad right now, so I'm going to give you a greater consequence than if it was, yesterday when I wasn't as mad. No, the consequence is already set. So all of those people that have committed trespass, they don't get off scot-free. They don't get away with it. They may for a time. They may for a generation. But we've got at least 6 generations coming down. So listen to this. So Queen Anne in 1714 vacated. We originally thought she abdicated the throne. She vacated the land and soil jurisdiction in Britain and went out to sea. England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Took the whole country out to sea. The land has been vacated for 300 years. That means
There's 2 resolute desks?
They had no sovereignty. If you don't have sovereignty, you can't create all these things they've created. It's all void. There's no king. There's no Protestant monarchy that the people were owed. The land and soul's been vacated. All those people have been left stateless at the hands of these scoundrels. And so what it comes down to is we don't have to fight a war. We don't have to argue and, get all spun up. It's law merchant. We accept the contract. That is, hey, we have the authority. God created us and he gave us dominion over the earth. We accept the responsibility. We're heir to that trust indenture. And they've done all these things, and we bring the things forward and say we don't consent. They've gotten us by plausible deniability and acquiescence. I do not consent. You have to object. So what did my friend who lives in Kansas, who had this Get the Let Out program impeding on her land and her sovereignty, or attempting to? She took an ad out, put it in the newspaper so that everybody in the town, status corrected or not, would know that they could object. And the Supreme Court has given you the basis to object. 2 cases, West Virginia versus EPA and Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. And so I'm still working my way through the 116 pages, but it's essential that everybody understands those 2 cases and ultimately what comes out of them. Now, I encourage you to go back and read West Virginia. You don't have to read the whole thing, but start at, go read the judge's opinions, because it gets a lot less technical. It's easier English once you get to that point. And read those opinions and the dissent and see what they say about the case. Because when you go to the city and say, hey, you can't infringe on my rights, and they say, under West Virginia versus EPA, and they say, well, we don't have anything to do with the EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency. Those are 2 different entities. So all the 3-letter agencies, all the acronyms, all the all-capital letter agencies are in the dustbin. They are done. You're going to see the systematic collapse of all of those. The upper lowercase letter agencies are territorial, and they're in reorganization, probably for a period of time. They will downsize also. So you're going to see a lot of courts go away. You're going to see a lot of You're going to see a lot of changes. So shore up your house. Make sure you have gold and silver. Make sure you have something to trade with. Make sure you're storing water. But better yet, if this has been resonating with you and you consider yourself one of the people, get on the land and soil. Please do not delay. Please. Whatever path you want to take to get there, do not delay. Because there's going to come a time when you're going to have to separate yourself, the wheat from the chaff. You're going to have their people and you're going to have us. And so, and ultimately, they don't have any authority over us. We have authority over them. And by them, I mean DOD Inc. and
Evil.
et al. Yeah,
Evil.
et al. And so, the one more thing I wanted to point out. Watch your language. When you say no trespassing, it means once you've been given the warning, you can't do it again, right? But when you say do not trespass, it means I have the authority to take action from initiation. So if you have a do not trespass on your property, your American homestead, and somebody violates that trust, that notice, you can take action right away as opposed to trespassing. So try to keep your language in the present, like today. When you write a letter and you say today, every time somebody reads that letter, they're going to say today, as in right now. And tomorrow it'll be right now, and an hour from now it'll be right now. So just try to keep all of your language in the present tense. And try not to use vague words that are not congruent with people, like child, parent, male, female, kid. Those are all denigrations from men and women, boys and girls.
And Kim, I want to add, it is upon us then, using that language, that's all encompassing. So we have to act then, as in take action, not in part, but move forward with not emotion, but we move forward to our action. So if somebody is involved in a trespass because there weren't eyes outside watching and they didn't get caught, sort of thing, doesn't mean that it's still not affecting, because if something's removed from you, whatever it is, if it's a trespass on you or your life, it's a form of harm. And if that harm still continues, then it's in the current.
Unabated.
So, yeah, exactly. So it's upon us to take that action, though, and then press claim and do so.
Yes, you have to bring a claim forward on the record. Nothing can happen without a claim, right? You have to say, I have been harmed. They use injured for persons. We use harm for people. I've been harmed, and it is your responsibility to course correct that harm. In my case, they killed my mom. They can't bring her back. So they're going to have to negotiate a remedy. And the same with John, right? He can't get the years back with his son. And they trespass every minute of every day that they fail to course correct and they fail to bring remedy. They don't get away from that. They do not think about it in the spiritual realm, right? Once you lodge the claim on earth as it is in heaven, you unbind it. That trespass is bound up, and you unbind it, loose it on earth by initiating the claim. Then you loose God in heaven to take action. Cal Washington is teaching a lot about this in his Empower movement platform, which is a subscription base. But he's talking about how contracts work and how the contract that we have with the Creator, and the Creator can't move until we take action, accept the contract, and put these things in place. And when there is enough of these things in place, the pendulum swings, and the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And we start to get remedy for what's been done for millennia. You know, we're supposed to have a debt jubilee every 50th year. You know that 7 times 7? You work the land for 6 years, you let it rest on the 7th year. Every series of 7, there's a debt jubilee. So we should have a debt jubilee every once in our lifetime. We have not had a debt jubilee in over 800 years. So what you're going to find out is that the British monarchy did not provide a Protestant monarchy for the people of Britain. They vacated the land and soil jurisdiction, which meant they had no sovereignty and they weren't actually holding a monarchy. They were holding a corporation, the British Crown, in conjunction with the inner city of London and Westminster, the government of Westminster. And when Queen Elizabeth died and Charles came to the quote throne, he was crowned as an emperor, not as a king. And so, luckily, the Lord High Steward of Shrewsbury, Ivan Talbot, came forward and exercised his birthright sovereignty to preserve the land and soil jurisdiction. So, there is great hope. And I want to say all that because in light of all the history and all the things that have been done and all the things that you can witness with your own 2 eyes right now and your own senses, great things are coming. And you know this because God says you will know them by their fruit. And if they sow seeds of death and deception and despair and all of this chicanery, they're going to get the fruit. And the harvest is coming. And I think we're going to have, there's going to be some pain and some ruffled feathers along the way. Some speed bumps. I don't know exactly what that looks like. But I know where we're going we've never been. And I know that it's going to be good. So
That's why it's important to make every step we take forward from now good. If a thought I had was if we just infiltrate with good, there's nothing bad that could come out of it. Think about that. We have an army of good surrounding us. It's all good. It's all good, man.
I agree with
It's all
Kimberly.
good.
I agree with Kimberly. We are, we have to hand over the baton to in this, this is a endurance game that we are in, and we got to hand over the baton and as much knowledge and as we can to the young ones. But we are getting there, and as Kimberly much correctly pointed out, there's just a few, but I think we can round this space up with saying that the Pareto principle, Kimberly, it will still work as it's supposed to do. So, and as it did in the 70, 76 and so on. It is just a few, 2, 3, 4%, and then the 17% will follow, and then the large majority will get the go-ahead that they need to step in and stop comprehending or stop playing the game that they are in. So the Pareto principle, it will work, but this 1, 2, 3, 4% as long as they keep their head high and keep the voice clear, loud, correct, and speaking the truth, we will get there. It will take some work still, but for every space we do, for every time we talk about this, for every time we get excellent speakers as Kimberly laying it out in the close perspective for a US resident, for somebody living on US soil, we will get there. We will get there, and then we just add the history to it, with Axel Oxenstierna, because he is such a large part of this, and for the people emigrating, taking the risky journey to get rid of the Viking crown and all the effects of the Westphalian Peace Treaty of 1648, which created the national states and the control over the banking in the early era, the forming of what is controlling us today. So when enough people grasp this, the possibility of a better future for the coming generations, it is in our hands, and I would say within the responsibility that each and every individual are willing to take or able to take. It depends on where we are and how, where we live and all of this. But everybody can do something. Nobody can alone do everything, but everybody can do a little bit of something in the local and in the national and in the state and in the national. You can do something. It depends on where you are, and we just have to speak the truth, and we have to reorganize history a little bit, getting it much more clear, because it has been intentionally hidden by the people that needs to have it hidden, of course. So we are revealing it bit by bit, and everybody can do quick researches on this, and or we will have maybe a series of Q&As where all our great listeners, many people listening today, I'm grateful of that. The hour though is getting late, so I think that we could round this one up. I think we have been provided.
Hey, Mott, I've got a really quick tech freaking tip.
Yes.
Tesla, Elon just is negotiating with the government right now to allow LEOs, law enforcement officers, and investigators to have access to Tesla cameras. Thought everybody would want to know that.
Oh, that's cool. And just adding one more thing about this. Who took his business out of New Sweden, aka Delaware? And please do remember that the second honorary citizen of the United States, and there's only 8 of them, I do believe there's only 8 of them, were pushed through, introduced, lobbied for with great when he was young, our dear President Biden, or Resident Biden, or whoever, that's a little bit, unclear, but that is actually Biden getting Raoul Wallenberg to be the second honorary citizen of the US. And believe me or not, the first one was Winston Churchill, also maybe, slightly involved, you could say, in Pearl Harbor and some other activities for the oligarchs. If you want to look into that, maybe we should discuss a little bit more about Winston the next time. That could be appropriate. Actually, it will fit in quite good with the situation in Iran, the oil, and this. Yep, that might be for the next time. And thank you, Kelly. I'm gonna check up on Elon there. He's actually posting quite a lot these days, so we'll check it out. Thank you, Kelly. Tish.
Yes, I think we're going to wrap it up. It's late over in Sweden. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you so much for everybody coming here today. We meet every Thursday, 4:15 Eastern Standard Time. If anybody has any questions, feel free to DM me and please follow the speakers. They're a world of information. Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you, everybody. John, Mr. Mott's secretary, Kimberly, Kelly. I could go on and on. I love you guys.
Yes, thank
Thank
you
you
all.
so much.
Much appreciated.
God bless, and we will talk soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Or evening. God bless.